Hey everyone, it's Baxter
and Jonathan
from Casino Guitars here with another thrilling and exciting episode of The Fall and Rise of dun 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 Fender. You got it. So Jonathan and I were talking, and a lot of people have been just kind of drilling down on Gibson this whole past decade or so, because Gibson's had a few hard bumps.
Some poor decisions, some bumps.
And for a lot of you that don't know us, if this is your first video, Jonathan here used to work at
I did.
Gibson.
Good old Gibson in Nashville.
And guitars that we own way too many of and love thoroughly. But they've had a few bumps along the way from what we've gathered and talked about, I think, and seen. And so a lot of people don't think about Fender, and they see, because Fender's crushing it right now, but Fender's had a few bumps along its way too. So we thought we'd do a quick little rundown history and the bumps and dives that some people might not quite know about, but some of you probably will. And what we really want is your comments and your questions and your thoughts on it, because
we're just talking. We want your feedback. We want to know what you think.
Yeah, and we love your ideas, because honestly, we usually respond to every comment, and we get hundreds of comments.
It's probably unhealthy at this point, but we're still going to do it. So there you go.
If it's not us, it's the guy behind the camera.
Right.
And if it's not him, it's the girl behind the front desk.
Yes.
She has the snarkiest answer. So if you get a really snarky answer, it's probably her.
Probably her. True.
But that's it. So let's start talking about Fender right off the bat. Fender.
Love them.
Love them too.
I'm a Tele player.
Okay, I'm a Strat player and a Les Paul player, and a 335 and a 355 player.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thing. But anyway, the history of Fender. 1938, I guess we're going to start. That's when Leo Fender sort of started Fender. It didn't really. 46 is when it really became Fender, and the journey began.
Right.
And then that magical year of 1950 is when that solid body electric guitar that Leo Fender came out with, that we now know as the Telecaster, but what started off as the Esquire, then the Broadcaster. Then they got sued by Gretsch because that was a drum set.
Cease and desist. Yep.
Cease and desist.
Well, I don't know if that was a thing then. I don't know.
I think it was.
But let's pretend that's true.
And I used to live in New York, right? And I used to see the old Gretsch factory. And so whenever I read about that the first time as a kid, I was like, oh, that's cool. That building sued that other building in California. That's not how it happened.
Probably not, no.
But 1950, 51 is when it was the Telecaster.
The real deal, yeah.
And we all know and love or hate the Telecaster. It's a very iconic shape.
How could you hate the Telecaster?
So what do you love about the Telecaster so much?
They're just so simple, man. Nothing's really changed about Telecaster since then. I mean, it's just...
That's very true.
There's a bite you get from a good Telecaster that I don't feel like you quite get with a Strat. Like, I love Strats, have Strat too, play Strats, but there's just something about this growl and this grind you get from a Tele. I feel like a Tele can get closer to a Les Paul than a Strat.
I feel like they're brethren.
Yes.
And I feel like a Telecaster is to me, it's very difficult to master. It's like riding a dragon.
I feel like it's an unforgiving guitar sometimes.
Yes.
I don't know why I play one. I don't.
You're pretty good.
I'm okay. I'm all right. But no, I mean, it's just what you. That's just what it is. There's nothing to really hide behind with a good Tele.
We got the Telecaster. 1951 is pretty much, and that year was $191.92, which today would actually equal about $2,000.
Good to know.
So back then, when you were buying a brand new Telecaster, you were spending $2,000. So it's pretty confusing because there's so many SKUs of Telecasters. Right. Now you can buy a Squire Bullet for like $150 and a Squire Affinity for. And then you get the Teles and the Mexi, the US built, the American Originals, custom shops. You can spend
on up the line.
You can buy Jimmy Page for $25,000.
It sounds just like Led Zeppelin.
Is that true? Okay, then next, let's continue. We're going to fast forward some. 1954, the Stratocaster comes out. Arguably the most iconic guitar shape ever invented for solid body electrics.
I'd say that's good. Good argument to be made there.
You see Fender guitars on people's T-shirts that don't play guitar, and it probably doesn't. They don't even know what a Fender guitar is. It's everywhere.
It's got to be the most copied guitar ever.
You see it.
Everyone makes a Strat.
It's beautiful too.
It is.
It's the space guitar. Then then we have the Jazzmaster later, the Jaguar. They keep pushing along. They're making phenomenal,
awesome instruments. Yeah, by pretty much everyone's approximation.
The amps too. We have these beautiful amps going out, and then eventually we keep building, and I think around 1960, I think they had around 100 employees at Fender.
Wow.
So it's not very big. That's all. Is it boutique? We did a thing on that, but no, it's not boutique. It's obviously not. They're mass producing these guitars. But anyway, so we're building these great guitars, And then they build the company to a point where Leo Fender and Don Randall, who's also with them there, hey, we built this to a point. Let's sell it. So they sell it.
CBS. Ta-da!
Bump up for the whopping in 1965, $13 million.
Whoa.
Which is outrageous.
I did not know that.
Outrageous amount of money for back then. These guys are set for life. Leo doesn't have to work another day in his life. Don doesn't have to work a day in his life. It's good. You're good to go.
A lot of people don't know, though. I believe he stayed on and consulted for how long?
It was a few years in.
At least, yeah.
Because they didn't get into G&L until way later.
Right.
Which is a whole other video.
Yeah, the Music Man stuff and the G&L, yeah. He was doing all that.
A whole different
all that
ballgame.
thing, yeah. So
I guess we're going to cap it off. This is going to be the end of the Fender's golden era.
The end of the glorious beginning. Yeah.
So we have pretty much 1951. I'd say 54 is like where they
really just took over the world.
It's a good 10, 11, 12 years in that sort of range, and they are the guitar. Everyone's playing in it.
The amps everyone's playing.
I know, we're still playing. I mean, I have some sitting around, some old 60s Fenders and the Vibros and like the Bassmans. Oh my goodness, amazing. Then the corporation comes in. And you've worked at a guitar company. You've sort of seen how a corporate overhaul can
Yes.
tell us.
You start making some decisions based a little less on what's the absolute best thing as playability and function, and a little more about the bottom line, a little more about, hey, we need to save a few bucks here. This makes more sense for our, the people writing the checks. I mean, I think it changes your perspective on what is your priority in making instruments.
Yeah, from all that I've understood, like I wasn't there obviously, but they brought in a lot of guys from the automotive industries.
Right.
And they definitely streamlined as much to make as many guitars as possible, as guitars that would last longer, which is the worst thing, because they put on super heavy coats of poly.
Different finishes, yeah.
Different finishes, different weight. The guitars weighed substantially, probably 3 pounds in some cases, which is for an electric guitar.
Is heavy.
I was going to say, like, if you're not a guitar player, but why would you be watching if you're not a guitar? Maybe non-guitar players watch these
Maybe
videos.
So.
That'd be
That's
awesome.
scary to think about a little bit, yeah.
It'd be weird.
But I mean, 3 pounds, if you've ever played a 4-hour gig with no breaks, 3 pounds is a lot.
No, because I was a Les Paul gigger all through my touring, Les Paul on a Tele, and then I played a real 61 Strat. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know these were so good.
Change your life.
I grew up, playing like 90s Strats and stuff, which is we're gonna get there in a minute. So let's back up. They're different. Some are good. Some have less sensor pickups.
Yes.
Like mine did, which was still really.
Which is still here somewhere.
Still, yeah, it's hiding behind that lamp
Yeah.
back there. But I like it. I like it. So we get into the 80s, and Fender's not doing so well.
Not so much.
Hair metal has sort of come about. Nobody wants a Stratocaster anymore. They want BC Rich's, Ibanez. They want the pointy tips.
Pointy guitars.
That's a Fender.
They want a Super Strat.
Super Strat.
Not made by Fender necessarily.
Oh, and
Charvel, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's so we get some guys. You got William Schultz comes in. I guess they call him Bill Schultz. Is that
Sure?
No, in the 80s. Let's talk about William Schultz for a bit. Important character in the history of Fender.
Yes.
Fender's in its darkest days, and they're still entering them. They're finishing them in a strange way. Fender Squire's started coming from Japan for the first time, which is a good thing, but the company is hemorrhaging.
Right.
Every year they're losing millions of dollars.
Lots of money
now. And so CBS just wants to unload it. They want to dump the whole thing, get rid of it. So William Schultz gets a buying conglomerate, a small one, and they buy Fender for $12.5 million.
Wow.
So let's recap. So where we are right now. So in 1965, Leo Fender sold it for $13 million. So it is now worth $500,000 less in 1985.
I'm no math whiz, but that seems bad.
So the trajectory was horrible. There was talks of shutting down the whole thing, and that's precisely what happened.
Did they shut down for a bit?
Shut down production for over a year.
In the USA, right?
Yes, they did. And then that's when they were moving the factories, getting it all set up in Corona, and just retooling everything, because all Mr. Schultz wanted to do, Mr. Schultz.
Very
It's gone from William to Bill to Mr. Schultz.
Mr. Schultz.
It's like talking to my father. I just don't know. He's so stern. But all he wanted to do was bring back the quality. They noticed that Fenders weren't being made like Fenders were made. They didn't have the guys that knew how to make them. They didn't have the girls that knew how to put them together in the same way anymore. They've lost the magic. So he was focused on getting that back. And he gave some of the guys at Fender a mission to set up this thing that became the Fender Custom Shop. And that
Cool history there.
Cool history there. And that was established in 1987. So it's under the company of Schultz owns this company now. He's pushing along. And Fender Custom Shop, most people don't understand, it wasn't brought on to make a profit.
They weren't like, we're going to make these beat up guitars and,
that wasn't even a thing
get everyone. Yet. No, it wasn't, right? Yeah.
It was really just, it was to make the best like guitars from the old days that had never, or guitars that these celebrities and stars could dream of, just to help establish prestige for the line again. Because Fender was like, most of us weren't around then, like, just because people weren't playing Fenders anymore. You could find vintage Fenders in the 70s for like nothing, like crazy.
Well, you hear about like you hear Clapton talking about buying 50s or 60s Strats out of a barrel in the back of a shop for like $100.
I'm very jealous of this time machine that I don't have.
Right.
But so there we are. The Fender Custom Shop's formed, and then in 1987, I stumble a little bit sometimes. We're just blathering. It's fun though.
Right. It's a lot of things.
Let's think. Fender Custom Shop's going. The guitars are going great. So Fender's starting to grow again, and they're actually starting to turn a profit for the first time in quite a few years, over a decade. There's a profit.
Looking good. Things are going well.
So they start branching out a bit and start acquiring some companies.
Plot twists.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Does this sound familiar to another company?
A lifestyle brand.
Oh no. Thank you. That was what I was thinking. When I was working this out this last night a little bit.
Right.
It's like they're starting to become a thing that we don't want them to become. Even though they still do it every once in a while. We work with Fender. We love them, but they were buying companies. They buy this great guitar company called Guild. They buy a few other things. They didn't do Guild too many great services.
No. And it seemed like they owned everyone there for a minute. I mean, they bought,
we're not going to go into the detail of what was happening. They were trying to get big into installs too, with like their speaker arrays. Yeah. Even like the consumer electronics, they still dabble with that a little bit, but it was pretty bad. Then we get to 2008, and that's when the economy collapses, and that put everybody on a big nosedive. The market has just recovered from that for the entire guitar sales market. Vintage market has not recovered yet.
I would say no.
Thank goodness. It was outrageous anyway.
It's true.
The guitars were going for astronomical.
Crazy dollar amounts.
I mean, they're still pretty high, but I would see like 50s Tellies going for like way high figures.
Oh yeah.
Like 5 figures. Like,
yes.
Like the high ones.
Right.
So it's like, oh my, that's crazy. It should not, and it's beat up, it's not in good shape, it's not original. It's like, that was just a little nuts. It was a nutty moment. But so here we are, and Fender's, now that they've realized they bought these companies, they're in a little bit of trouble. And most people don't like understand like what was happening there as far as they need money.
Yeah.
So the way you get money when you're a big corporation is you can either take out debt, more debt, which they already had, which they were trying to pay off. So they went for an IPO, which is an initial public offering, which meant they wanted to go public and sell shares of Fender, which I was super psyched about, because I was like, I like the stock market, I want to buy some Fender, I want to own a piece of Fender. Unfortunately, guitar companies don't work in the same way as the other companies do, as far as the profit margins aren't as high.
Right.
It's not.
Which is something I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, no, it's just not.
It's not there.
They're not crazy margins.
It's not like televisions. It's not like consumer electronics, like where you're just buying
jewelry or something,
It's not like clothes where there's like these crazy markups. Guitars are pretty small. It's just the whole idea is like there has to be like a pretty large turn of guitars.
Yes.
And then, anyway, the IPO. They're ready. They're doing it. All of it comes crashing down too. And like, oh no. Because the market won't buy it, and so they cancel it. I think it was in July 2012.
Okay.
It was around there. So I'd say this is like Fender's on the verge of cusp of like they're in trouble, and if they would have kept going in the same direction of acquiring more and taking that other risk, I think they would have nosedived in the same way that Gibson has sort of. Fortunately, they shifted gears sooner. They brought in a new CEO in 2015, I believe. That was Andy Mooney. I was calling him Andy Cooney, who's an Irish singer from New York. That's not him. It's
different.
Andy Mooney,
different person.
Who is a Scottish man. Who I think, I don't want to give too much credit to the man, but I'm going to give a little bit of credit to.
I think he deserves a little credit.
Yeah, and he brought in a great team, and they restructured what Fender was doing, and they said we're just going to build guitars.
Yeah. And
we're going to make the best guitars, and we're going to make really cool new ones every year.
Yeah.
And what they call NPIs, which is new product introduction. And they would put out these new guitars, and they sort of basically you'll notice with Fender, you have like this awesome new release almost every maybe 1 to 2 a year, and then because you get like we had the Performer recently, the Fender Player, We had the Elite a couple years back, the American Original.
When the American Originals came
and
out.
The American Professional retired the American Standard.
Right.
And this is all scheduled out and planned, and then they have their acoustics. But then they give us these little cherries like the Jimmy Page that none of us can afford.
No. We like to talk about it.
But then they give us the Jimmy Page that some of us can afford.
Yes.
Like the American one that's
Coming soon.
Going to be. I think they're in the showroom right now. We're just getting them set up.
Awesome.
And then they have the ones that are built overseas in Mexico, overseas across the border, which are going to be like that $1,300 range. So we can get those and we get excited about those. But they're very smart of sticking into guitars, and they learn their lesson. And I've gotten to spend a lot of time with the CEO, not CEO, but all like the top guys at Fender. And they're just like they're normal guys and girls. Right. It's really cool. Like,
it is cool.
Like Andy is, I'm gonna call him Andy because we're pals now apparently. So I'm doing a video about it. No, but Andy he plays in bands with like the guys that work there, like the guys that answer the phones that are super cool. Like Derek, if you're watching this, he's awesome. He's got beautiful dreadlocks too. Sorry, he's a great drummer. But it's my dream hair. But Andy's like sitting there playing like Sabbath with him, and he's like the CEO. Like they have like Bono and the Edge on the board of directors of Fender. That's crazy.
Which is awesome and crazy, yeah.
When they're passionate, junkies about getting young kids into music, and so now Fender has, since 2015, in a strange way, since we've watched them, they have taken dominance. Like dominance. It's insane. Like they are in. I would call it the second golden period.
I mean, they're making amazing guitars right now. I mean, they really, really are. The whole range, they're just all great guitars.
Well, what's your favorite guitar Fender's making for let's say under 2,000, 1999 camels?
I mean, the American Originals are
Yes.
mind-blowing good. I mean, it's almost like a custom shop. They're great.
I would agree.
Great guitars.
Yeah,
I mean, they're phenomenal. But even I love the Player Series.
Yes.
I think the Player Series are phenomenal guitars. The pickups sound great.
Yeah, the Player Series is tricky because
They feel good.
I'll pick up a Player Series and I'll feel like an American Performer, and like I could take either one. Honestly, I like the neck better on the Player.
I do too.
I think
but obviously that's subjective. But yeah, it's not my favorite neck profile. I learned like 3 words in my brief college career. That was one of them. So.
I didn't know you went to college.
I'm telling you, it was really quick. It was
you didn't finish
quick
college.
trip. No.
There was a kid in college earlier, and I was like, "Oh my God, this fancy person's in here. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Come and tell us things and educate us." But no, like Fender is like their custom shop is making works of art.
Oh my Lord, yeah.
It
makes me drool.
It does.
I dream about them.
Every day at work, we're like, if a custom shop shows up, it's like everyone comes out. There's a ceremony, and then sometimes 5 custom shops show up in a day. We're like,
smell them.
We do smell them.
We do. They smell so good. I don't know why. It's important. It's a good detail.
So I think that kind of covers out what we think is the trajectory of Fender. So they've had a couple bumps. So we did it. Like, you had 1965 was the beginning of the end, but it was a slow death to 85 pretty much. That's like, oh my God, 30 years of just like
not so good.
Dragging down.
Yeah, right.
Because you get some of those like 1979 Strats, like it weighs 12 pounds, and then they had some. Then they started coming back up again. They started going back down again fast, and then they're back up again.
Now they're
killing it. And we think the same's happening with Gibson right now. We're seeing it with Gibson.
That's what we're hoping. But I think that's true.
I've heard
that's
nothing
what it seems.
but good things about the new line coming out.
I'm kind of can't wait to try some of them. So.
It's, I mean, the custom shops blew me away.
Oh yeah.
And the traditionals and the standards were awesome this year. And some of the little. So anyway, sorry, talking about Fender. Yeah. I apologize.
Fender.
Please, questions, concerns, comments.
Click like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you'll see our new videos.
The bell.
The bell. It's very important.
Have we said that before? That's neat.
I've decided we should say it now.
That's a neat thing to say. No, we seriously love comments. You will get a response back. Even if you're really snarky, you'll get a snarky one back perhaps. But we're usually pretty nice.
Pretty nice. Pretty laid back.
Pretty laid back because we love it. We love these guitar lines.
It's true.
So let us know. Jonathan, fun hanging out again, man. That was good.
Yes, sir.
Signing off. See you guys next week or tomorrow.